It's always an honor to be reaching out to you wherever you are. I want to thank each and everyone in advance for being a part of this life and being a part of this journey of spirituality, whereby we are learning how we can transmute our energy wisely, creatively, and deliberately. All of these lessons is basically to teach you how to become more of a conscious and a deliberate creator, and how to use your sexual power to achieve your every desire. It's called the alchemy of sexual transmutation. Many of us were not taught about how to transmute our energy into the equivalent of what we desire in this physical three-dimensional world. And I'm gonna explain to you why there will always be a battle between those who subscribe to semen retention versus those who've been taught the power of ejaculation or intentional release. Now, the very first thing I want to do is take you back to that very first time that you had a particular dream in the night, and when you wake up in the morning there was an emission, and it is whether you are a young man or a young woman, it would take place in your life, and it is actually the blossoming. So the blossoming of a young man's life starts with a release. It starts with an ejaculation, not with a retention. And so your first wet dream was the message of energy transmutation being related to you in a symbolic way. I want you to get that. Because when you experience your first wet dream, it is teaching you that a psychological state can create a physical fact, and a physical fact can create a psychological state. It is very windy. I'm just gonna wait for the wind to calm a little as I continue. So, if you have the right person around you to teach you when you come into the stage of a young man, and you have that first experience that you are now blossoming, and it is teaching you that you have the potential to bring forth of your own kind, that is a sign of multiplication. It's a sign of abundance. It's a sign of affluence. So if you miss that, you will never understand the power of your sexual energy and how to use it intentionally, how to use it wisely, and how it can never be wasted. It could only be misdirected or misused. And there are many ways how it's been misused. That is why semen retention seems to resonate with some people who've been suffering for a very long time from a young age with pornography addiction, they feel like losers, and they suffer also with addiction to masturbation, releasing with no intention, and so they feel hurt. And because they feel hurt because they had no superior man or any self-aware, self-realized man in their life, maybe they grew up with a single parent and so on. When they find men on the internet speaking about semen retention, because in many cases some of these young men, they never had any form of discipline in their life. For example, they may have never had any sporting discipline. They never play sport. They never shine in any way in life. And so they always felt like losers. Okay, and as I mentioned before, because they never practiced any form of discipline in their life, they were never an active sportsman going up and so on. When they get the message of semen retention, the temporal boost that they will get is the boost you will get from self-discipline and self-mastery. It have nothing to do with semen. Okay? Because let us use some simple common sense reasoning. The reason why you are here having this human experience, it is because someone ejaculate. It wasn't because someone retained semen. For example, if you take a container and you put it under a running pipe and you're catching water and it keep running in the container continuously, though it is containing the water for good use, after a while it will start flowing over. And when it starts flowing over, it is when it reaches a point of diminishing returns. So the rest is being wasted. And that is why semen retention cannot be something that is sustainable. It cannot be something that you can do forever. It could not be something that you can do for a decade. Okay? Because it will bring frustration, it will bring pain, you will become confused, and naturally speaking, you would flow over because your body was never made to retain. Also, when you look at a young woman, because I mentioned the blossoming of a man is with a release, okay? His first ejaculation through a wet dream. Now, when a woman gave her first release and she excrete blood, which is water, and also semen is water too, okay, most of your body is water. It is the blossoming of the woman. It means she can multiply, she can bring forth, and so on. And so it represents abundance. It represents affluence. Okay? So the mother will start to warn the daughter that she can become pregnant and she can bring forth, because that's the sign that she can definitely bring forth. And so based on her cycle, naturally speaking, if you're in a relationship with a woman, you have a time frame for natural retention. Because when she's having her cycle, it gives you time to cultivate that energy and use it spiritually and psychologically while she's cleansing herself. And while she's cleansing herself and she's ovulating, she's in also a spiritual state. And so if you are the right man to teach your woman, she can use her mind. As a matter of fact, her mind power around that time, when the portal is even more open, for manifestation. And you can meditate together and manifest together and transmute the energy without getting into sexual physical activity. So you see how everything aligns? For example, the woman, she walk along with the moon. And you too, the man. And these are things that you must understand to help you to know the power of using sexual transmutation to achieve your every desire. Okay? Now, also when a woman gives birth to a child, it gives you a window of time for you to cultivate and use your sexual power in the way that these people talk about semen retention. Now, when you try to do things from an ego standpoint, and when you receive a message from someone who received it also from an intellectual standpoint, and one who never had any real inner awakening or inner experience, you will understand why these people who are pushing the agenda of semen retention would always want to come on and program like this one and make certain comments and try to challenge you, because you're speaking about releasing the seed intentionally, and they have no concept of alchemy. Okay? Because the people who like to brag and boast about becoming a better person and making more money from semen retention and so on, right? Let me use a simple example, and you would definitely agree with me that it is true. Let's say a young man wasn't winning in life. He have no discipline, no attraction, no charisma, nothing. He been hooked on porn, addiction, and OnlyFans. And then he heard a message about semen retention. And because he never practiced any form of discipline, and he doesn't know anything about discipline, right? He started to discipline his mind. And because his subconscious mind don't know the difference. Okay? When he started to practice to discipline himself, he started to get results. And let's say he get results and he started to earn a certain amount of money, and he finds himself in a category of high value man, financially speaking. When women start to come his way, he's not going to retain anything. As a matter of fact, I saw a young man who say he normally pay over 25K for Yanni. I can't remember his name. I think I saw Charles and White was burning some fire on him. Okay? For that. So, my brother and my sisters, you have to be well educated and well informed from people like myself who would have had inner experience of awakening. Because when you have an inner experience of awakening, it's like an ejaculation. Just like the eruption of a volcano. For example, in my country, we have the second biggest, second largest active volcano in the entire world. A population with just over 120,000 people. And in 2021, when they had the eruption, it blew the cap of the volcano that was covering it. And with all the pressure build up, it blew it off, and it went thousands and thousands and thousands of miles up in the sky. People, even in other countries in the Caribbean islands, in Barbados and those places, even there, the volcanic ash fell in their countries, and we look at it for hours, upon hours, up in the sky before it started to fall back, as volcanic ash. And many people have to lock in their home because of the fume and so on that it was giving off. But then when all of that happened, the soil after a while become more enriched and bring forth more abundance because of the volcanic soil. But yet, it was doing a destructive act first. Now it is the same thing. when you have a true awakening experience from within, you'll definitely blow off your crown chakra. So if a man is saying, but he raising kundalini energy and he retaining and he's storing up, where he's storing it up, and after he build up so much of pressure, what's gonna happen? You see, when you understand the journey from the base of your spine down to the sacral chakra to your crown chakra, you would realize why I would have put a book together called The Secret Vagina. The Secret Vagina, Mystery of the Virgin Birth. Mystery of the Virgin Birth. The sign of a man giving birth that the church will never teach you. And many of these ignorant and misled young men who like to boast so much on semen retention, the parents still believe in the Jesus and Mary secular history story that has been pointing them to look outwardly. So they live their life in mediocrity, mental slavery, and all the other negative things that religion give to our people. And so they become limited, just believing that they could do something that they can't do for the rest of their life. Who man can practice semen retention for the rest of his life without he flowing over? He would always flow over. I know of many young men in church today who've been trapped in secular Christianity, who've having a lot of trouble with pornography and masturbation and so on without no intention. And because I am a straightforward person, there are those who will come to me and they will speak to me and they will admit to me, because sometimes I will confront them. Say, you don't have no woman? Are you gay? They're going to say no. And a good example of this is like one time a woman who was living in England, okay, and she come from the islands and she went to England, and she have always been a Christian all her life, and she found my videos and she started to learn a lot, and she stopped go to church, and so church people were constantly encouraging her to go back to church and so on. So I told her, okay, they invite you to go to church, tell them you would only go under one condition, that after church they come by you and gather by you to speak with someone who's your mentor, and if they agree, let's do it. Okay? And so she did. And when they came by her, she reached out to me and she called me, and then the conversation started. There was a young man among the women, and I asked him, are you married? He said, no. I said, do you go with any woman? He said, no. I said, do you go with man? He said, no. I said, are you impotent? He said, no. Then when I started dealing with him, the lady told me long after, it was the first time it really dawned on her mind that this guy could be gay. So sometimes you see all of these men going to church and they're not releasing themselves, and sometimes it's just a mask, because naturally speaking you must release yourself, and naturally speaking religion is having you living a life that is impossible, because you cannot be good all the time. You have to accept that you're both good and evil, okay? But you have to practice balance, and you have to understand polarity. And when you understand that you can't have light without darkness, then you will understand why you would have people who would defend semen retention versus ejaculation when they were expressed here on this planet through ejaculation. So those who have the dark agenda and want to reap your energy, if you store so much semen up to a certain point, they could come and steal that energy. They could come and reap that energy. Metaphysically, I know what I'm speaking about. They could come in the night when you're sleeping in a state whereby you are both conscious and unconscious, and they would feast on your energy. So don't get caught up with the hype and the internet concerning semen retention. You have to release with intention, the right intention, the intention to build, to expand, to grow, and to become the best version of yourself. Moreover, release to bring a family that is enlightened. I did a video concerning how to release to bring a genius into this world. Could you imagine? Every one of us go to the toilet. Every one of us have to take a shower. Yet there's some nations that can achieve atomic power, while other nations cannot achieve atomic power. Let me use another example. If you look in the countries where there's a lot of crime, like for example Jamaica, Trinidad, and so on, I'm talking about the Caribbean islands and even in Africa, you would realize how much religion is prevalent in these countries, and they do not build bombs and guns, yet the people have been possessed with so much bombs and guns. Look at Haiti, that have so much guns, and so on. It is because wisdom has been kept hidden from the masses. Every society in this world do not want you to become wise, because ignorance is the most lucrative business there is. That's why they want to keep in ignorance. Okay? And so, if these men learn to exercise their sexual power in the right direction, with the right education of sexual alchemy transmutation, they would become better people. They become better men and better women. It isn't a coincidence that all these warheads, these ballistic missiles, is like a dick. Okay? And these men are exercising this kind of power. Look at what happened with Iran and Israel and all of that. And these two countries represent two religions. And these two religions did enslave melanated people. But there's one who's like the succumbus right now called Israel, who've been feasting off the people ignorance for so many years and brainwash them and tell them if they bless Israel, they will be blessed. When it's 1948, they become a nation, they set up that big plan. Just like the big plan they make. They had in 2020 to 2022, and it was the same religious people who got inoculated because of mortgages and loans. So, my brother and my sisters, semen retention could only take you to just this level if you are not a disciplined person, and you need to learn and practice self-discipline. Because you have to understand there's different level to spirituality. There's different level to your sexuality. There's no coincidence that P. Diddy was having what they call freak offs. You see, they tell you it was freak offs. But when you think more deeply, these elite people knows how to transmute their energy. Okay? And they could transmute this energy knowingly. Okay? However, there are people who do not understand how this energy works. Okay? Because many people all around the world look up to these Hollywood celebrities, and their influence to the younger population has reached very far around the world. But these people are not freaks, as you think. These people just have a certain understanding of their anatomy, their biology, their physiology, their psychology, and they know how to transmute this energy. And so once they get you to look at the energy in a perverted way, they get you to look at it in a negative way, they get you to look at it in a disgusted way, then they have you chopped. For example, secular Christianity that have been used to point you to look outwardly have always given you a negative feeling towards this energy. Yet they capitalize and they marriage scam, whereby they make you believe that you have to sign a piece of paper and pay the governmental establishment some money so you can partake in energy transmutation without guilt and shame and judgment and condemnation. And that is why when you fall for the bait, you continue to bring forth religious and superstitious children in this world, because you are giving your download away, because you are partaking in sex with absolutely no wise purpose, only for pleasure. And then you think that you've been justified, and you're going to quote the scripture that says that the bed is undefiled, that marriage is honorable and the bed is undefiled. But that is speaking about when you know how to bring the masculine and feminine energy together to live the best version of your life on this planet. When a black man and a black woman can transmute the sexual energy consciously and deliberately, they will bring forth a genius baby. And we need more genius in this world so that Africa would stand. We need more genius to replace these puppet leaders in Africa and the Caribbean and around the world that have been selling their people to the oppressors to continue to oppress them and keep them in ignorance. So my brother, my sister, do not fall for this semen retention thing, because it is a short-lived thing. And naturally speaking, you always involved in retaining that energy. Okay, naturally speaking, it's been your body been built that way, and the woman body been built a certain way to accommodate that. Okay, so you're always practicing semen retention. Okay, but they have you going and taking it to extremes and saying that because you practice semen retention, you get more money in your life and so on. It's not true. It's just discipline. Okay? Because the hardest thing in this world is to think. They don't want you to think. The system don't like men and women who can think for themselves, because they will become empowered. And people who are empowered cannot be easily controlled. The more you can be controlled is the more you will be giving your energy away. That is why you will fall for things that doesn't make sense. Like thinking that you could retain and that you wouldn't flow over. The fact that you would flow over if you're a healthy man. I remember many years ago where I would just lie down on a bed, and if I just only hear just a little song that is sexual, I already flew over. Because at that time I was in secular Christianity that pointing to look outwardly. And when I look at the women in the church, I used to just see hypocrisy. So I never feel led to get involved with women in the church. And so I used to abstain. And I can tell you, when you abstain for a very long time, you're going to get very much depressed. And it's going to push you to get addicted to pornography and masturbation without intention. That's why my video that says masturbation for manifestation, it is teaching you about releasing intentionally instead of wasting it. You see, What I'm teaching here will shut down the OnlyFans industry. The OnlyFans industry is being built off of weak men. The semen retention phenomena have been built also around weak men. And that is not something new. It is something that has been happening for a very long time. Every time there's a great awakening, there's always the polar opposite. So men who would have had real awakening experience, when they come to teach the masses, there are those who are keepers of time and who understand these cycles. They will come up with their different ideology, and they would even have men and women that they would set up to teach these things. And we live in the age of social media. That could be easily done. So sometimes you see some people just going viral, and because you're going viral and the thing become a trend. Yeah, it become a trend. That's why trend don't last. And that's why a lot of young men believe that they've been empowered through semen retention. And then when things start to get better in their life, women start to come their way, they start to say that they normally relapse. Why you think when men talk about semen retention, they just normally say, oh, just last week I relapsed and this and that. That reminds me like men who goes on steroids. And then they say they're going to come off. And every minute they're going to fall back and they're going to say they enter a relapse. Because why? When they use steroids, they're shutting down the natural build-up and release of testosterone. They're shutting down the sexual hormone. It's the same thing with semen retention. That is why, my brother and my sisters, I'm saying to you, understand sexual energy transmutation and how to transmute your energy wisely. Transmute your energy creatively. Transmute your energy intentionally. Always have a blueprint for your life. Get a vision board concerning that which you like to manifest in this world, and learn how to transmute the energy. Okay. I have a breathing technique which I would not be able to put on YouTube, but it will be available to you. By the time I do release the video I did on it, I will have everything in place, and I will continue to empower both men and women around the world concerning how to use this most vital energy to create their reality consciously. Okay, at this time I just wanna check out some of the comments here, and we could be a little bit more interactive. Okay. Al Iman Film Studio. Hello to you, my brother. Greetings, wherever you are. Tanisha, grand rising to all. Grand rising to you also. Hello, Roria. Greetings to you, Roria, also. You are Roria. We as men, we have to be Roria. Our warriors. While the women dwell in their feminine and their caretaking, peaceful energy. Okay? And that is why we as black men, we have to empower ourselves to help to uplift our women. Because as a melanated man, you gotta be strong to deal with your woman, because they've been weaponized through the religious and educational system. And that is why lessons like this is very important to help you. Okay, because many young men, they have no father figures to look up to, and the few men who are trying to empower men, they're doing their best to shut them down. Look what they did to this man Kevin Samuels. Look what they did to MTR, who used to react. He and Tippendale, they used to react to these pop the balloons. Okay, I do a video on that too. When I upload it, I'll definitely encourage you to check it out. It have to do with pop the balloon and sex, relationship, love and relationship and so on. Okay, where I go a little bit deep into certain things to show you it's really a social experiment. So I'll definitely encourage you to check it out. So men are like the endangered species on this planet. And so they put more responsibility upon us than the women. And that is why we have to show them why they do that. Okay? And we have to protect them. And we have to do that by understanding the energy, the sexual energy, and how to transmute it wisely. Okay? We need both the masculine and the feminine energy. We need to understand the power of the conscious and the subconscious mind. Because, as I said earlier, many of us, we were raised by secular Christianity. That is pointing us to look outwardly and give us the wrong concept of money and the sexual energy. That's why religious people, they will always speak negatively about the sexual energy and money. And the only time they would speak positively about the sexual energy is when they sign a piece of paper and they believe they're having such a thing as a righteous sex. When there's no such a thing, they've been brainwashed and they are delusional. Okay? Someone here say talk about USA black people. I think what is happening, is happening to people all around the world. Because it's the same brainwash. But when it comes to the USA, because it's like the capital of the world, many people all around the world look up to men and women in the US. And so, if the men in the US will set the example and be strong and be bold, it will help the brothers in the diaspora. It will help those in Africa also. Okay? Because, you see, when people have been colonialized, many a time they think that America, England, Canada, and all of those places, those are the places of opportunity. But the opportunity, the land of opportunity lies between your two ears. Right between your two ears lies the land of opportunity. Okay? So, that's why I would always encourage people, if they're going to leave their country to go to another country, you have to leave with a plan. And you have to know that your mind will follow you wherever you go. You have to know that your sexual energy will follow you wherever you go. You have to know that the disciples is referring to your sexual energy. That's why I did a video concerning the breath walk and the breathing technique that the church never wants you to know. Where you're doing 12 breaths and the 13th one you're sending it out intentionally. Okay? Because the disciples are follower, and what will follow you wherever you go? It is your thoughts that will follow you wherever you go. And the 12 disciples represent the 12 strands of your DNA. They represent the 12 powers of man. It's not speaking of someone thousands of years ago. And so they make you believe that the number 13 is a bad number. So they give you movies called Friday the 13th. And they always try to make you think negative things will happen on the 13th. So that you would not realize that you are the 13th one who must navigate the 12 others that will follow you. The 12 disciplines or powers. Okay? So, if black people in the USA and in Africa and in Caribbean and so on, if we all can unite, we'll become more of a powerful force on this planet. And if we would use the sexual energy to bring forth more enlightened and aware babies into this world, we become a stronger people all around the world. Why you think Pakistan, North Korea, France, all these other places, why you think they could build atomic complex and so on and reap atomic energy, and Africa is there and they're going and they're plundering Africa? Like France been plundering Africa for years. Even the Chinese plundering Africa. America been plundering Africa. Everyone been plundering Africa, while the Africans still talking about Jesus coming soon. Why? It is because they've been using the sexual energy unknowingly bringing forth or bringing back an idiot baby. So when you have your idiotic belief in secular Christianity that's pointing you to look outwardly, and you're talking about Jesus coming soon and some white man gonna come from the sky to save you, and you're giving your power away to them. They will always rule over you. For example, I've got to understand, if you was to take a flight to Africa, the most people you see going to Africa are not black people. You see more white people going to Africa than black people, and what they're going there for? Investment. And do you ever stop and think what they normally teach their children? I wrote a topic on that. I think I'll do a separate video on that. If I had a white child, what I would have taught my white child. Okay? So it's very important to know these things. Very important. Assad, hello, Bashta. Will you come, Pakistan? In my village, we only have one black Bashta here. Maybe Bashta must mean one black brother here. Okay, you see, you have to be very careful when you travel to certain countries that the people have been taught a certain way. For example, in the West, they use the Bible in your formative years to indoctrinate you. But in these other countries, they use the Quran to do the same. But the people who do it, they always have the secret interpretation of these religions. And so, if a person asks me if I'm a Muslim, I'll say yes. If a person asks me if I'm a Rastafarian, I'll say yes. Any name they call me, I answer to that. Because why? All of them is leading you in the same path when you understand it esoterically, not exoterically. Because you would understand that all of them is teaching you true salvation, which is self-realization. And when you become self-realized, you would know that all these religions have a secret teaching. What's your skincare routine? To be honest with you, I try my best to always drink as much spring water as possible. I do not drink water from the tap. All the water I drink, it comes from the earth. Okay, so I drink spring water on a daily. I try to drink a gallon of water, the minimum. Okay, because I also build muscles, okay, and I build these muscles naturally. So, and the minimum, I try to drink a gallon of water a day. I make sure incorporate certain fruits in my diet, like papaya or papa, okay, up to right now I have a massive one in the fridge, okay, and I have a pineapple, and I utilize pineapple to help me with my digestion and so on, okay, and I use virgin coconut oil on my skin, okay. I don't use cream and those things. I use virgin coconut oil on my skin, okay, and I make sure I get enough sunlight. Those things are very, very important. And remember, always eat close, very close to nature. Do not eat too much, fatty foods or fried foods, okay? Always go for moderation. And that's what I've been teaching, throughout all of my teaching, that you must understand balance. The people who talk about, oh, I'm just going to retain. Oh, semen retention. They don't understand balance. You're going to retain sometime. And as I said earlier, the human body naturally, the way how it works, it gives you time to do some retention and some focus. Okay? And the time you got to release. Okay? Intentionally. Don't just release because you could release. Don't get carried away with. You see, when you are a very much disciplined person and you learn to take care of your body, when you are in the sexual act, energy transmutation, and you are focused, you wouldn't be selfish and just think about yourself. You make sure the woman first release herself, okay, with her intention too, and then you can release yourself. So all of these things are very, very, very important. Please the woman first and please yourself after. Okay. Someone says here, hello from Melbourne. Yeah, Melbourne is Australia. Okay. shout out to you in Australia and the Aborigine people too in Australia. Okay, there was what actually the original people of Australia, and then they take some British prisoners and they send them down there, and you know, the rest is history. Okay, you know, I'm having fun. Okay, so you know, a little humor is very important. But I remember when they was having the Olympics, because there was I can't remember the woman's name. She was a good runner, and so on. They include the Aborigine people in the Australian games when they was hosting the games. Okay, but there was a lot of genocide that went there, that took place there in Australia against the Aborigine people. And you know, the Aborigine people, they look like me. Okay, I remember looking at not South Africa, so I'm seeing South Africa below here, but looking at Australian cricket team, and there was a black man named Andrew Simons, and this man could have been a wicket keeper. He was real good being a wicket keeper. He was real good being a bowler, and he was real good being a batsman. Andrew Simon. If this Australian brother who comment knows anything about cricket, he will say yes. That black man was an all-rounder on the cricket field. Andrew Simons. Okay, hello from South Africa. It's always a pleasure to get my brothers from South Africa tuning in. Okay, remember Credo Mutwa. Okay, remember Credo Mutwa. I did a video about Credo Mutwa already. Okay, this was a man who was a wisdom keeper, who knew certain things that was passed on to him by the ancestors. And let me say this to melanated people: we have never had any religion. Don't make nobody fool you. We have always had a spiritual system, an energetic spiritual system, and the system continues. It was never the system, the spiritual system was never stopped by the oppressors. What the oppressors did, they polluted it by putting Jesus and church into it. That's what they did. Okay? So, and that's how they polluted it. But it must be pure again when men like myself arise and start to show what this science is all about. And let me give you a good example. Just recently, the government in my country gave the spiritual Baptists a public holiday. And this man, if you check his roots, it goes all the way back to Europe. And for years, I've been asking these spiritual Baptists why they were persecuted and they do not know. Why they just a certain way and do not know. Why they do certain things certain way and they do not know. Because why? They have Jesus and secular Christianity and all of these things being injected into the spiritual science. And they continue with it, not knowing that later on, men like myself will come and know the science and could run it back throughout all the islands and back to Africa. Even in America, you'll find the spiritual Baptists. But it is a universal science that the ancestors have always hid in our DNA. So we carry around it in our body. So even if they enslave you, even if they force Christianity upon you, even if they kill, they rape, they do all of these things to get you to accept their indoctrination and their philosophy, they've always been a remnant of people who've been practicing the science, even if they've been practicing it ignorantly. That is why in my country, the spiritual Baptists, which is which they call Shakerism, it has started in my country, and it went throughout all the other islands in the Caribbean and around the world, and went back to Africa and still in Africa. And it is in many different versions where like you have the Orishas and so on and all of that. Okay, in different ways, but it's the same science. So we have always had a spiritual system. That is why we have to embrace our sexual prowess. We must embrace it. That is why we are so endowed. Do you realize the black man is well endowed? The average black man might be carrying a 7 or a 6. While the average other races, you're talking about like 1 inch and 2 inches. There's a reason why we're so endowed. There's a reason why 2 melanated people can come together and bring a blonde hair child. A albino. The dominant gene. So you're telling me that we mustn't use the sexual energy to create our reality consciously, wisely and deliberately, and we mustn't practice sexual alchemy or transmutation. Don't make them fool you with religion. Dreamers 11, thank you very much. Let's get this channel to 25k subscribers. I definitely look forward to this channel reaching 25k in this week itself. This week. Looking forward to see it in this week. I believe it. And I want you to believe with me also. Greetings from Guadeloupe, brother. It's a joy and a pleasure to have my brother from Guadeloupe reaching out. I think Guadeloupe is still a French colony. Okay, and Guadeloupe and Martinique. Okay, but they are Caribbean islands. Okay, and great men came out of those places. Okay, I think this guy Serge Nubray, who was even better than Schwarzenegger, physique-wise. Okay, and in 1975, Joe Weider, a fake Jew, he brainwashed Serge Nubray to put Arnold up there when they were creating the movie called Pumping Iron. And they accused Serge Nubray of saying that he was an actor in France. Okay, to say that he was involved in pornography and something like that. Sexual scenes and so on. So it's very important for people to know certain things. Okay, so greetings to my brothers in Guadeloupe. Okay, all Caribbean people. Yes, The Secret Vagina, very powerful book. Okay, thank you very much for the mention. And I'll definitely encourage others to go and get that book. It's available on Amazon. Okay, that's where I share with you my experience. Okay, that's why I'm telling you, you have to release. Okay, because when it happens, you boss your crown chakra. And when it starts, it will start with the energy which is above, meeting with the energy that is down below, at the base of the spine. And there's where the 7 seals will be open. This is where you will actually open up Pandora's box. That is when you will realize Golgotha, the place of the skull. That's when you will realize the empty tomb. And then that is when you will realize that the greatest light that has ever been fed to humanity is the Jesus and Mary story that has been fed to you as literal and as secular history, and have been pointing you to look outwardly. That's why most people do not know that they can create their reality consciously. For as a man thinks in his subconscious mind, as he thinks in the invisible, so shall it be established in the visible 3-dimensional world. Della, darling, hello, new subscriber. Thank you very much for the subscription. I'm very glad that this message resonates with you. Marimo, Mama Bolo, how can we find the best way to release? The best way to release is to release intentionally. You have to have a blueprint of what you want. You have to write down what you want. You have to know what you want. Okay, and you have to use your imagination. Okay, as I said earlier, I'm putting something together. Okay, a breathing that no one have ever done before. I would be the first person ever doing that kind of breathing. Okay, and it would definitely help you to utilize the sexual energy in a more powerful and unique way. Okay, and You do not have to even touch your body or do anything more than to listen to that breathing and do what I will be telling you to do, and so on. And you practice that breathing with that particular song. You will hear that particular song of that breathing, and the messages is sending forth, and will definitely activate those latent power within you, and you can just release it out into the ether. Okay. Of course, you will always have people that this message will go over their head. So I'm gonna read every comment here, and it's always good to have those kind of people. Okay. This Friday, ENY 777. Why is he using 777? If I'm speaking nonsense, okay? What nonsense you talking, bro? Well, what I would encourage you to do is not to take this nonsense. Do not consume this nonsense. Okay? Move on. But thanks for the comment. Someone here mentioned succumbus, because when I was talking about those who come and reap your energy, yeah, that's what they do. Okay, the succumbus, they come and reap your energy. So they want you to store up your energy. I remember when I used to store up my energy being chopped in secular Christianity for 3.5 years. For 3.5 years, my energy used to be taken from me. And I could feel this entity on top of me. Okay? And that's how I come to know that calling on Jesus is a waste of time. There's no power in the name of Jesus. It's a lie. Okay? So when a man experienced 3.5 years and I do everything, let me tell you some of the things I did. I even slept with a Bible above my head. I even slept on the floor with 4 pieces of board that I took and made crosses. One on my left, one on my right. Then at another time I take 2 more pieces of board and make a cross down at my feet and a Bible at my head. And still, this entity used to come and reap my energy. Okay, because I've been storing it up. Okay, but I was unaware. Okay, but I know exactly what I did to get rid of it. Okay? Yeah, I know exactly what I did. So I know this whole thing about Jesus is a lie. Okay? Yeah, so they use this succumbus and incubus. Okay, so sometimes they come in the form of a man, sometimes they come in the form of a woman. Okay, so I know what I'm talking about. I'm not here just talking from books or talk from what I hear other people say. It was an awakening experience that I had in my life where I could teach these things, where I know the most powerful energy on this planet is the sexual energy. And I have to learn to transmute it wisely. Okay, it's all alchemy. Okay? Be sure to like the live. Yeah, it's very important that you participate, you like, you comment, and you share, okay, to get it into the algorithm. Okay, we need to get this message out to as much people as possible. And so when you bring your energy with my energy and we work together, you will realize that united we will stand, but divided we will fall. So that is why you have to learn to accept even those people who say, okay, he's speaking nonsense. Okay, those people who say, oh, that is demonic. Okay, the only thing that a religious person would say is not demonic. The only thing they will not say is demonic is money. They will never say that money is demonic, because that's the church agenda. It's to take your energy, and money is energy. Okay, so they'll never say that is demonic, but everything else that would expose the system, they will tell it's demonic. Because, as I said before, ignorance is the most lucrative business on this planet. They don't want people who are wise. Thanks, I've learned a lot from Bobby Hemmett. Me too. Brother Panic, me too. I'm from you, Ong. All these hyped up red pill. Yeah, alpha male BS. I'm not into. I've transcended the mere physical realm. I'm into the metaphysics. Exactly so. I remember when I had my spiritual experience and I didn't know where to turn, because I didn't know, I've never heard such a thing as one being a mystic or anything like that. When you're born in the Caribbean islands and so on, all you think about the politics and religion, okay, and academic education, and you believe that is the key. So when I had my spiritual experience and I started to search the internet, that's when I found Bobby Hemmett and a man named Phil Valentine. And it took me a long time before I started to listen to them, because once I heard they express themselves and they use a certain word that we call, but people normally say it's bad word and explicit. No, I know it's foolishness, it's expression. Once I heard them use that, because of the Christian, upbringing and indoctrination that was in my head, I was a little bit reluctant. Then when I become more aware, I just start to listen to them. Okay. Even when I was becoming more aware, more enlightened, I used to see Les Brown. And just because he used to dress and nearly look like a preacher, I used to refuse to listen to Les Brown. And one day my spirit said, no, listen to him. And when I listened to Les Brown, that was it. Okay? So that is why, you have to be open-minded. Okay? And that is why when a Christian a Christian app reached out to me to teach on their platform, that's why I took the opportunity, because I want people to be able to listen to what I am teaching and listen to what people are teaching who call themselves prophets and prophetess and so on. Okay, and put one, two together and see who's making more sense and who's helping you more and who you're resonating with more. Okay? Conscious state land. Some people feel the rain, most people just get wet. Okay, some people feel the rain and they only get wet. That is like, some people, they ever learning and they never come into the knowledge of the truth. Okay, some people, they just get information but they never act on the information. You have to act on the information. Okay? But my brother and my sisters, I can guarantee I could put my life on the line for it. I am telling you, there's no greater power than the sexual power to achieve your every desire. Okay? Those in Hollywood been using it. Those down in the valley been using it. And they will continue to use it. The elite will continue to use it until you realize that you're an elite too, because you have the same power. May your heart and head speak with the same true voice. Thank you very much, my brother. I'm speaking from the heart. Okay? Life is a delicate dance. True, like a river flowing. With you mentioning the river, let me just take time out to say I did a message already called From a River Experience to See a Knowledge. I think I'll do it back again to show you there's no coincidence here. And for example, when people talk about semen retention, the river have a lot of different stages. So sometimes you might have a tributary, sometimes you might have a lake, sometimes you might have a waterfall. But the river haven't complete yet until it empty itself into the old age stage, which is the stage where it joins with the sea, and the sea represent the eternal. It have no beginning and no end. So you say life is a delicate dance, true, like a river flowing, always seeking its balance. Nah. So too must your spirit be, ever true to the rhythm within, exactly, for that is the purest melody. Of course, it's music. That's why you have your first and last heartbeat, and you will have your first inhalation and your last exhalation. Okay? So how are you not going to release? Try to hold your breath in and do not let it go. And tell me what will happen. Let someone take a plastic bag or something tight around your head and you can't get to release. And tell me what will happen to you. Well, that is the same thing will happen to people who talk about semen retention. Because any person with a rational way of thinking and who have common sense, they know you can't retain for the rest of your life. They know you can't retain for a couple years and so on. It's just a temporal thing to help you to become more disciplined. That's all. So don't boast on it. Don't major and a minor. There's a guy for years, man, he been back and forth with the same thing. He saw I did how to the honey feeling that the church wanted to know, and he come on and comment and talk about how I vindicating what he been saying about semen retention and so on and all of that. So I had to really do this video, okay? Because people like that, you know what I mean, they're still suffering from what have been passed down through epigenetics from their mother and their father, who still believe Jesus coming soon. And they haven't cleansed themselves from being stupid, okay, and being idiotic, and stop following hype. That's why some of them, they still following celebrities, okay, instead of they follow their heart. That's why I always tell people, okay, that I reach out to in these videos, to always let their intuition lead them and guide them. Most of the time, that's how I end most of my video, letting you know that you must let your intuition. There's a reason why I'm telling you, let your intuition lead you and guide you into all things. Farthest I got without busting was about 6 days, because that's the natural window. If you check the time of when a woman is seeing her monthly, okay, you would realize that that's the table between there. She might flow for about say 3 or 4 days, sometimes 5, and then she might have another 2 days where she will, get rid of the last, the last residue and so on. Okay, she get rid of those, and then you're ready for action again. Okay, so naturally speaking, it's already built in, but they take to a certain extreme. That has been long time, to counteract awakening. Back in the time when men way back was teaching new thought teaching and so on, and teaching how the mind works and so on, and teaching law of attraction way back and so on. There's always been that same semen retention thing and the whole kundalini thing. Been about long time. It's been about long time. You always have to have the polar opposite. So while you have people waking up and becoming enlightened, you have people going to the mental asylum too. Okay? My energy was harvested. I could definitely agree with you, my brother. My energy was harvested many times already when I was keeping in so much. Okay, I've been chopping Christianity. Been beating Jimmy Meat for years. Jimmy Meat for years. Of course. But do it intentionally. Intentionally, with your intention. You could become a millionaire. You understand? Just doing what you're supposed to do intentionally. If you do not have anyone to express it with. And if you do not want to do that way, you can do it without even using your hand or anything like that. Okay, I'm do more videos on that, and make sure get the breathing technique ready for you. But I'm telling you, because of this song of this breathing technique, I wouldn't put it on YouTube. Okay, because you never know, they might flag me and say blah 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 blah. Okay, but you're gonna get it. Okay, so tune in. Okay, be on my Patreon. Okay, you will definitely be on my Patreon. Thank you. I'm a grand voodoo master watching from Africa, Benin. Greetings to my brother in Benin, contacting your soul right now too. Thank you very much. And you know that I'm an old soul that come back to teach our people. And they turn around and turn our science against us. They use Christianity to call voodoo and voodoo evil, when it all connects back to nature. So thank you, my brother. I've always in my spirit have some connection to certain areas in Africa. Okay, Benin is one of them. Ethiopia is one of them too. Okay, Ghana. Okay, Nigeria. I can go on and on. Even Burkina Faso. These are places that I've been fascinated with long time ago. I've searched all of the different places in Africa, Guinea, Papua New Guinea, all of those places, Morocco, Algeria, all of those places. All of those places. Okay. So thank you very much for reaching out. There's no coincidence. What food herbs support clean fluid production? Try as much as possible to eat close to nature. For example, this morning I drank what you call fever grass tea. We call it down here, some people call it lemongrass. If you're from the Caribbean, you know what I'm talking about. It smells very nice. Okay, they call it lemongrass, some people call it fever grass. I wish there was some form of technology that I could just get to just get the juice out of that leaf. Just extract it and get it in a green farm like chlorophyll. If I could get a piece of machinery to do that, I could do wonders down here, because it's all over the place and people don't use it the way it's supposed to be used. Okay. So I had that tea this morning, and of course I had avocados. So eat as close as possible to nature. Be sure to like, guys, yeah, be sure to like this video. And thanks for the comment. Hi all. Said hi. Idafi Oghani. Hi to you, my brother, wherever you are. Greetings to you. And greetings from the ancestors also. Jacob Darcy. Try releasing with the thought of what you want to achieve in the third dimensional realm and really feel that energy. Yes, that's how you definitely go about it. That's why you have to be focused. Okay? And the church don't want you to know that. The church wanted to bring back a baby saying Jesus coming soon. That's what the church want. That's why the ignorance continue for so long. But this is the time. Whenever you see the people in Africa and around the world, and people in the Caribbean wake up, you know what it was going to be like. Also, Cape Verde is closest point to real Atlantis. The people, Cap V, I think it's Cap V, is way pronounce it. I remember early in my journey and so on, a brother from that area reached out to me for a manuscript, and I did send him for him, and up to now, but he doesn't know he's messing with the ancestor. He's bringing cause on himself. I can't remember his name. I think it's some Providence, something like that. Okay. Yeah. But the real Atlantis is within you, my brother. The real Atlantis is within your consciousness. You wanna get to Atlantis, you have to go from within. It's like the movie Avatar. Yeah. It's within. That's where you find the Atlantis. And that's where you will find the real true Africa too. It's within. Greetings, King. Where are you in the world? I'm in the Caribbean. Exactly, Semen and the Grenadines. Okay. As a matter of fact, me speaking to you and social media. Social media is a GPS. Okay, they use social media to see and to know everything. They will tell you, no, they don't do that. No, don't bother with them. Okay, WhatsApp, all of these things. Instagram, all of these things. All of these media outlets. Okay, we know. Okay, but you see, telepathic power is the highest. Okay? Can people link up and reason with you in person? We can do one-on-one. Okay? It has terms and conditions for that. The links in my description that you can do one-on-one with me. Okay? Marilyn, Malawi. Hi, King, Soul Man. Hi to you, my sister. Where in Africa are you from? Mary Moore says, what about Credo Motua, alien abduction? Okay, yeah, I think he spoke about that. But there's definitely other beings that are here with us. Okay, one have shown itself to me. I don't know if he was from the star system of Sirius. Okay, because you know even the Dugan people knew about this star system called Sirius. Okay, and so we being the oldest people, we've always have connection with higher powers, but the oppressors came and they polluted the system that we used, and they did it through religion, but it never left us, and it can never leave us because it's in our DNA. Okay, so what people call alien abduction might just be your ancestors revealing themselves to you and taking you on a journey. Because I remember one time I went on a journey and I could have seen the other planets. That's why I believe the earth is flat. It's in an oval shape, but it's flat. And what is above is also below. So that's why it's flat. Okay. I honestly believe that. And that's why I do not believe any man land on the moon. If they did, these supremacists, they would have already gone there for vacation. Only billionaires would have been going there too. Okay. Let me just read on these comments here. So let me just say this: if you fail to use your sexual energy wisely and creatively, then AI would be more intelligent than you and would take your place in this world. AI would become a serious and most dangerous weapon. You'll be fighting against the machine. So that's why we need people to wake up, especially my brothers in Africa. Same here, and I'm 32. I had to break that programming, that mold on the mind. Yeah, religion is a serious program. It's a mold on your mind. They mold you in a paradigm. Hi, brother. Hi to you. Greetings. Blessings to you also. I put lemongrass essence oil for the smell of my car. Yeah, you can use it for that too. But we drink the lemongrass. I just go outside and just cut some lemongrass. Yeah, and dry it in a flask with hot water. Yeah. Someone say I got the 5G iPhone. All those are GPS stations. All those iPhones and so on. Okay, I'm not saying you shouldn't get it, but they're tracking devices. Someone said they're now tapping in. Okay. But I'm definitely getting, ready to shut down. Okay. Hi. Love to you too, Gloria. For those who may have joined late, we are dealing with the importance of you learning to transmute the sexual energy wisely and creatively, instead of trying to practice retention, which is something that would be short-lived, and your energy could be harvesting from spiritual entities. Okay, so don't go for the hype. Not because you see semen retention getting a lot of views on the internet. Don't go for the hype. Okay, there are levels to this. Okay, if you're not, as I said, if you're not a disciplined person, you never practice discipline, and now you use semen retention and start to practice discipline, you're gonna see some sort of result. Okay, for example, if I decide not to have any sex for 3 months and I go to the gym, I'm gonna get far much more bigger than this, even though I've already passed the half-century mark. And I build all of this naturally, 100% natural. Okay, lifetime drug free. So someone asked me, do you vape? I will never vape. I will never ever vape. That is so unhealthy. Vaping is so unhealthy. Okay, best flat out channel, vibe so cosmos, YouTube. Okay, shows hidden continents and vast oceans. Oh, I think it's continents possible. So I'm late. Release retain. Release. Retain is just a short-lived thing. For example, let's say Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and all of these people, Fauci, all these people, and so on. Okay, because if you look at the pandemic, you know what I mean, you see what kind of agenda it was. Let's say these people was to come together, all these billionaires, and buy up most of the farmlands. And then they was to confiscate most of the seeds. What do you think will happen to the rest of the world? So why you think storing your seed is good? How does it reflect nature? If nature decides to just store all the seed and nature doesn't release, what's going to happen to the world? What's going to happen to the world population? Common sense will teach you that this semen retention thing is just a hype. Okay? If you go into the gym and you want to put on some quick size and so on, you could stay away from sex for at least a good 3 months. Okay? It wouldn't be easy, but you put on some good size. So if you rather big muscle, you understand? We'll go for that. Because when do you realize whenever a melanated man finds himself involved with a Caucasian woman and he have a good built body, she always put him on steroids, you know. Yeah. That's why you see so much of these big bodybuilders in the IFBB and professional bodybuilders. Check out the woman they married to. Check out their wife and see how much children they really have. Very few. So yeah. So for the person who asks about release, retain release, because naturally speaking, nature itself put it in place for you to retain when your woman is seeing she monthly and when she give birth to a child. Okay, so basically almost every month you spend at least a good maybe say 10 days, you know, to 12 days, you know what I mean? You use that window. Okay, so I'll never vape. Okay, I would rather a person tell me they smoke weed than to tell me they vape. Okay? Especially if they're on good vibes and they smoke weed and are good vibes, they just continue on good vibes. Depending on what kind of weed they used to, because that also been they put a bunch of chemical in the marijuana and they hybrid it and they tell them it's for medical purpose and so on, and then a lot of youngsters are using it and doing a bunch of foolishness. It's like a weapon. Lemongrass and hot water for tea. I'm going to try that, of course. One of the best tea you could drink. Much love and gratitude. Much love and gratitude to you too. Thank you for tuning in. I've always been visited me since childhood. Why is that? Because you're special and unique. That's why this, what is it, incubus or succubus is visiting you. But if you could really reach out to me, I could tell you, you know, how to defeat these spiritual entities. You could easily defeat them. Okay, you don't fight a spiritual war as if you're fighting a carnal war. That's the problem. Okay. So if you check out my descriptions, I have links down there, you know, where I could do one-on-one with people. Okay. So you could reach out to me, I could tell you how I got rid of mine and so how you could get rid of yours. But every now and then they would try to attack you, okay? But they're afraid of you. They would become afraid of you once you defeat them once. Yeah, they would always be afraid of you. J-Dudes Entertainment TV. I know Bobby Hemmett said, get your freak on. Yeah. You see, a lot of people think Bobby Hemmett was just, you know, humorous. No, Bobby Hemmett was teaching a lot of good science. And at the time, Bobby Hemmett used to tell people, don't get caught up with these guys, with Sanetta, with their debates and all of these things. It's just ego. Okay? And as I said, I found Bobby Hemmett when I would have already had my inner experience. I already experienced the board from the skull and so on. And then he make a lot of things clear to me. And so when I go on the internet and I see all of these things on the internet, they will just bring confirmation. That's why I know our people have been brainwashed. Okay? But isn't ejaculation healthy as per science? Of course it is healthy. That's why retention is unhealthy. That's why you could ejaculate right up to the age of 70, 75, 80, 90, even up to 100. Okay? But if you try to retain, you become frustrated. Real frustrated. Almost as if you want to go crazy. I retained for so long before, but I wasn't doing it with semen retention in my mind. I was doing it because I was trapped in secular Christianity and I was doing the thing they say to do. They say don't commit fornication and adultery, but now I could explain to you what fornication and adultery really mean. Okay? And I could show you all the lies. Okay? And because of that, I spent a long time. Okay? I remember spending about like 10 years not releasing because it was very hard for me to really be with a religious woman. Religious woman, I could have just seen through religious women how weak they are, how fragile they are, how hypocritical they are, and so on. So that was one of the reasons why. And then also too, I used to say I don't want to bring forth any children and get in any relationship being broke and poor and miserable. Okay? Gotta be on both sides, release and retain properly. As I mentioned, naturally speaking, you're always retaining. the woman built like that for you, to help you, to complement you, to retain up to a certain time. That's why the window between 7 days after that, and you go up more after a while, you start to feel a little bit frustrated and all of these kind of things. Men start to get headache, your balls start hurting you too. And then after a while, you're going to flow over. You would flow over. What's up, Unc? What's up, my brother? Nice having you on. Thanks for tuning in. Beings used to visit my dreams since childhood. Why is that? They were never human. I answer you already and tell you that. Okay, you have a calling. Okay, they're gonna do that. They're gonna read and harvest. But I tell you, if you reach out, you know, I'll definitely answer you. Reach out to me on one-on-one. We have a conversation. Hell nah, no vaping. Just stick to the green. Yeah, no vaping, man. That shit is so unhealthy. So it's good to release every 14 days. Of course. Or every month. Of course. Looking at a woman's naked body is one of the healthiest things. What's the best place for healing instead of unhealthy consistency? One thing as I mentioned earlier is a breathing technique, a sexual breathing technique that I'm gonna put not on YouTube. You can't go on YouTube. I'll have to put it on my Patreon. Okay. You see, they don't want you to know the song The Sex is the most healing thing there is. They tell you binaural beats and all of these things. Okay. But the song The Sex is the most powerful. Okay. Even right now I sit on this tree and I'm hearing the chopping of the birds and the song of nature. That is so powerful too. Okay. So being out in nature is very, very powerful too. Okay. Thank you, sir. You are great confirmation that I should make my semen retention journey a lifestyle. I never say, you make it a lifestyle. Not the extreme one that they're teaching on the internet, you know. Okay? Because as I tell you, once you're in a relationship with a woman, you are always practicing retention because she have a cycle. Okay, and you have to walk along with that too. Okay, so it's natural. So don't take the extreme one that they're telling you and telling you when you do that, you can get more this and that. No, it's a bunch of young men who are losers, who are masturbating towards porn and OnlyFans and so on. And they wasn't intentional in what they were doing. They were never disciplined young men. They had no sporting upbringing or anything like that. So they do a little bit of discipline and they get the result. And they think it's semen retention. Don't make them trick you. Talking about the pushing back the energy up there. So we're going to release it. Anything that you take from down here and you put up here, there is a place to release it. That's why I said, go and get my book. The Secret Vagina, Mystery of the Virgin Birth. The book I have from right here. Okay. That book is available on Amazon. Then you will understand the true resurrection. Okay. And then you will understand the true crucifixion too. They've been crucifying your sexual power. They've been crucifying your imagination. That's why most people can't get an awakened imagination to find out God in man. My friend is experiencing with psychedelic mushroom. It is a good thing. Some people use mushroom and use psychedelic, okay? But for melanated people, I would say to you, you do not have to use psychedelic. But if you reach the point that you have to use it, then you could go ahead and use it because at least you're going to give you some experience. Okay, you get some out-of-body experience. But if you could only get connected with your ancestors, it would help you a lot. If you would totally get rid of all of the beliefs that was passed on to you from your parents, get rid of secular Christianity and all of that, understand that the Bible is book of mind science and all of that, you know, you could definitely have an awakening experience from within. Okay, but psychedelics do work. Yes, I was thinking that if the world doesn't release natural disasters are worse, we have a lot to learn from Earth, although they manipulate it. Yeah. I remember earlier I mentioned volcanic eruption. That is like a release. Okay, remember all of these natural, what they call natural disasters, it goes back to earth, wind, water, fire, and your spirit. Okay, so I'll go back to the elements. You must release. There must be releasing. You must release. When a plant start to give fruit, it flowers. When it starts to blossom, it's a release. When a man have his first wet dream, that is his blossoming. Okay, that's a release. When a woman also getting a monthly cycle and she could bring forth in abundance, it's a release. Release is a symbol of abundance, prosperity. That's why you have to release what the ego. To kill the ego self, destroy the ego self is a release. That's why you don't say you're going to lose weight. You're going to say you're going to release the weight. You're going to release the weight. You release the stress, you release this, you release that. It's a release. Okay, freak on meaning creating together. Okay, not just seed on flow. Okay, it's about raising light, which is what your purpose is. As a matter of fact, intention is the mother of all creation. Okay, so once your intention is to expand and grow, it is for your upliftment. Okay, that's the most important thing. Okay, so whether you want to call it a freak on or a freak off, it doesn't matter. Don't get caught up with words. Okay, because when they say PD and them was having freak off, it was cultivating the sexual energy in the most explicit way. Continue to be up there. So a lot of people think, oh, sex magic and this and that. Don't make the church fool you. Have you ever watched Dr. Ray Hagen lectures on YouTube? Yes. I look at Dr. Ray Hagen because there are people, numerous amount of people, used to meet me and ask me if I just listen to him when they hear me speak. They say, you speaking just like him. And that's how after so much people meet me, I say, man, when you speak, you remind me of this man named Ray Hagen. You know him? I said, no, I don't know this guy. Okay, that's how I get to know him. The same thing with the book, The Kybalion. If you never get a book, I would encourage you to get a book too. The Kybalion. When I started teaching on YouTube years ago, many people reach out to me and say, man, I know you have read that book, The Kybalion. And I would have never read that book before. That's how I went and I got that book. And most of the books I have, people say I read those books before. I never read those books. That's just to tell you I had a genuine awakening. Okay, I'm genuinely in touch with my Christ consciousness. That's why I'm saying to you, semen retention is just a hype. Okay, ejaculation. For example, let me just use another analogy to show you. If Iran was just keeping all the ballistic missiles that look like a dick when Israel attacking them and they wasn't releasing anything, you think they would do all the destruction that they do over there? Okay, when America fly over Iran, what they do? They release what? The bombs. You have to release. Okay, if you just experience with mushroom, etc., without the knowledge, wisdom of study and decoding, you could get a bad experience if you do that, you know. That's why some people get some bad chip. Okay, you can't want a resurrection without a death. You must, you just high and back to the same nothing. It's about studying self. Yeah. All will have different experience. Yeah. You see, a lot of people want a resurrection without death. That's why they want to talk about semen retention and all of that. Okay, and try to hype it up and make it a major when it's a minor. As I said, if you're starting from scratch and you're not disciplined, you can start with that, yes. You have to be disciplined. Because if OnlyFans woman taking all your money and porn taking all your energy, and you have to start with some semen retention, you do that because you don't have a woman to express yourself with. But even until you have a woman to express yourself, naturally speaking, nature built the woman in such a way that it gives you a time frame to retain. Okay, it's called solar phallic energy rising. Yes, I could agree with you with that. Because I normally teach the inner sun science and technology to create your reality consciously. Okay, where I teach that the sun, as in the Eshian, it parallels the human imagination. And the human imagination parallels the sun. For without the sun, there is no life and there is no light. And without the human imagination, there isn't anything made that was made. And they brainwash melanated people and give them a SON instead of the SUN, when a SON could never exist unless therefore be the SUN. Okay? So, phallic is also in the Bible. Okay? Where it tells you about Moses and the rod. Okay, whenever your mother get strike with the rod, she Red Sea must stop. And Moses meant to be born, or to be taken out of the water, and your mother water bag have to be bust. And Moses will take you into Exodus. When you leave your mother womb to come over here, it's an Exodus. And you will face Pharaoh, the slave master, your ego self, your circumstances, okay, which are the effects. And until you know that you are the cause, you would be free to leave that place to go to another place of abundance and prosperity. Canaan land. And you can't enter Canaan land unless you meet the hoe, Rahab. The hoe represent the gift that will give you anything that you desire. Do you realize that hoe will give you what you desire? It will give you all the pleasure. If you learn to pay the price, man, I could take the whole Bible and break it down and explain every bit of it. From Genesis to Revelation, they can't fool me. Said hi, I'll reach out. Okay. South to North. I love the teaching. Vinci King, thank you. I'm from Guyana. Nice to have people from Guyana reaching out. It's a blessing. People in the Essequibo, and so on, okay? And hold your oil. Don't make them come and take your oil. Don't make America come and take your oil, you know. And I've been following this teaching for some time now. Thank you very much. Okay? Guyana have enough lumber and enough land that could feed the entire Caribbean. Guyana is even bigger than England. And they use the governmental system to keep down the people of Guyana for so long. And don't think America is innocent, eh? Okay, but that's another subject for another time. Greetings from UK. It's a blessing. Right now, the UK been harvesting our young men down here and having them joining army and navy. And the ignorant parents sending them up there because they're thinking about pounds, not knowing they're selling their children into slavery. And they used to enslave our ancestors in the sugarcane industry and strengthen themselves up there. Now they come and they send for the young men. Before they went, I used to chant them. I tell them the ancestors can't bless you. You're going to hold a gun for the white man who never going to hold a gun for you. Selling yourself short for money. But greetings, all the best to you in the UK. Okay? How to spell that name of the book? The Kybalion, I think it's Kybalion. Something like that. The Kybalion. Okay? I first put my hand on that book when people was accusing me of reading it when I've never read it. But because of the enlightenment. And then you can get my book too, The Secret Vagina, Mystery of the Virgin Birth. Plus my many other books. I have about 10 books. Plus I have journals and so on, okay? It's in your awakening, no more esoteric. Nothing is outside. Not esoteric, you mean to say exoteric. It's in your awakening, no more. You mean to say exoteric, not esoteric. Esoteric is the inside. The outside is the outside is the exoteric. The esoteric is the inside. Nothing is outside of us. Okay? So you can't say no more exoteric. You have to say no more esoteric. Okay? It's the time of esoteric. Okay, I think you make a mistake. You wanted us to say no more exoteric, right? Time of esoteric. All is inside of us. Okay. Real bad man. Thank you very much. According to their history in the Bible, when Moses brought the people out of Egypt, darkness, your body, yes, it's your body, yeah. Take them out of a certain mindset, a certain way of thinking. Our people still trapped in Egypt. That's why you see Africa has so much wealth than other people. In France, they living like kings. And down here, in the islands, all of the churches, the headquarters is in Cleveland, Tennessee. And the people in Cleveland, Tennessee, they have any people paying tithes and offering, and they have the pastors and so on, and the overseers who are actually horse slaves and so on. In a systematic way, they take in some of the money, most of the money, and they send it to them up in Cleveland, Tennessee. Is it good to sleep with many women or type of women, like dating, or should we wait for the right? If a woman is not going to help to build you, because your mission, a man supposed to be a man on a mission. You're supposed to be a man who's seeking to live the best version of yourself. And if she's part of that, fine. If she's not a part of that, and she's not helping you in that area, too bad. Okay? Woman to sleep with because of soul bonds, bad energy absorption from them, etc. Yeah. Can pick up a lot of bad energy from certain women. For example, there's a guy on the internet, I think his name Little Rudy or something like that. I saw a little thing with him. I think it's MTRC was showing you him. His hustle is where he does be on 20 verses, one and so on and all of that. And now he have a woman, the one want to regulate his life and tell you what to do. Okay, how to get it back, but she ain't gonna get it back for him. Man have always been hunters and gatherers. And when a woman don't want you to be in your place, she want to take your place. Hello, BlackMadGuru. Hello. Ancestral Zama. Hello to you. Greetings. I have bought your books. They are great knowledge. Thank you very much, Brenda Wilson, for supporting this work and buying my books. Thank you very much. Most of my books, I used to wake up between 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. without me having the knowledge at the time. That was the, like, you know, the wishing hours and so on. I used to just wake up, but I used to always remember something from Rumi. Okay, he was a mystic. I think he was from between Iran and Iraq, one of those places. Okay, Rumi. And he had a saying that when you wake up within those times, the universe has secret to tell you, and you must not go back to sleep. So I had that in the back of my head, and I always remember that. So many times I used to just stay up and listen to what my intuition would tell me to do. And I would act according to my intuition. That's the same that happened to me the other night when I put this breathing technique together, which I say I will put on my Patreon. That's when it revealed to me, because for years something used to tell me that the sound of sex is the most powerful song to manifest. And then it revealed to me the breathing is actually a breathing technique, okay? The people rebelled for the old ways, and Moses took them outside to get manna, okay? Manna, you see, what you are partaking of is what you are feasting upon. They have you been feasting on the wrong things. Listening to preachers like Gino Jennings, T.D. Jakes, all of these African brainwashed preachers. Some of them belong to secret fraternity and so on, and they want to always be up there while they have you down here. Okay, so you have to be very careful. Okay? Their manna stink. Their manna stale. That's why they want to patch the old with the new. So don't get caught up with them and the foolishness. I'm Guyana, but I'm born in New York City. But it's in my blood. Once your parents come from the islands and so on, even if you're born in New York, you're born in, doesn't matter, if you're born in Canada, wherever, there will always be something inside of you. Okay, there'll always be that DNA. Okay? So you have a piece of the Caribbean in you too. Okay? Greetings again from South UK. Greetings to you. I'm new here. 2 days ago I discovered your channel. Thank you very much. I'm glad that it resonates with you, and I know that you've been spirit led, okay, to find this channel. I hold my juice. I don't understand that. The attraction is crazy when you hold it. Of course, it is crazy when you hold it, but when you release it, it's even more crazier. Okay? When you release it, okay, catch this. Unless a corn of wheat falls in the ground and dies, it abideth alone. But if it dies, it bringeth forth much fruit. It is the last sowing and reaping. If you go against the last sowing and reaping, you have some serious repercussions. And that is why people just get upset. They just get easily frustrated and so on when they go on semen retention for too long. They get a lot of a negative side effect, but they wouldn't come out and say it. But I'm telling you the truth. It's the breath of life. The breath exercise, yeah. All breathing exercise, yeah. It's the breath of life. It's the life force. That's okay. Okay, the book is the Kybalion, yeah. And the Chi initiates. Okay, yeah. That's the book. So, my brother, my sisters, it's always a pleasure to have you tuning in. Okay, I hope you learn from this and that you'll be on your journey to attract the ideal woman in your life. So, you'll be able to release intentionally. She would, let me just say this. How would a man feel if he's going with his significant other and she's holding in everything? She's not releasing. She's not having any orgasm. Do you know the worst thing you could do to a woman is go with a woman and don't allow her to get an orgasm, to get a release? You're looking for hand. If you do that, you're looking for both. I think that's a song, well, because right now we're in the carnival season in my country. There's a man sing a song right now. That's the most popular song on the road. Afraid hand? Yeah, afraid hand. But if you don't want to get but satisfy your woman, a lot of men in Jamaica and Guyana, they say they don't go down. They say they don't go down. They don't please your woman. Okay, please your woman. You understand? You can get both. You get hand. Okay, so could you imagine, yeah, you go with a woman, the woman can't release? If the woman was to say, well, I retain in, how are you going to feel? Okay, so don't go with the hype with this semen retention. They're making it to be more than what it is. That's basically what I'm saying. You get a little benefit. Yeah, everything have a little benefit in it, but you want the thing that would ultimately benefit you for the rest of your life. That's why man just keep releasing for the rest of their life. But you can't keep retaining for the rest of your life to the extreme which they carry it. Sometimes I hear man say, I practice this semen retention now for 3 months, for 6 months, and I had a relapse. that you've been a Christian, trying to be good. It's all about balance, okay? I'm always doing semen retention for 2 to 3 months, and I always mess up. Okay, thank you for being honest. Okay, thank you for being honest. Thank you for being honest. I get very upset that I have to start over. You don't need to get upset if you learn, if you channel your energy to create your reality consciously, and you could use your energy to attract the right spouse. You could use your energy to attract a significant one to express yourself with, and while you're expressing yourself with a significant woman in your life, right? The way how the human body is being built and how she work with nature and connect with nature, and we connect with nature too. It give you a certain window to retain, and within that time you can use it. Okay? So don't get caught up with the hype, man. Don't make them man with them semen retention and the content. I mean the content get their views, so they wouldn't want no one else come and contradict what they're telling you. Okay? How long you did semen retention for? Man, more than 10 years. But I wasn't doing it and calling it semen retention. I was in the Christian basically from a child I beat my chest with tears in my eyes, and I asked myself the question, who am I and who is God? And so I started from a very young age. Okay, and the journey to discover who am I and who is God for myself. That's how I end up in the Christian in the church system. Okay, and I used to see so much of hypocrisy, and I used to know something was wrong, that I never used to want to get myself involved with a religious woman. They're too hypocritical and too gossip minded. Okay, they love commerce, gossiping. They can't control their tongue. Okay, they bad talk everybody. Okay, and they blame everybody but themselves. So because of that, I stayed a very, very, very long time. Plus, I never wanted to start a family being broke. Never. Never want to bring 4 children in this world being broke either. So that's why it took me so long. So I could talk from experience. Okay. How long you did Semen? I don't answer that. My last girl was releasing without watching porn. I don't know how. You don't even have to watch anything. If your mind's strong enough, you get what I'm saying? This is all about the mind. So you don't have to watch those things. As a matter of fact, with my kind of teaching, okay, if a person look at porn without no judgment at all to himself and to the people who involved, he will never watch it again. He will overcome it. That's how you overcome porn. That's how you overcome OnlyFans. You see, when people go on OnlyFans, these women on OnlyFans, they're stealing your energy. But if you shut down the dopamine in your brain through this kind of teaching that I'm teaching you, and you start to see it from a different angle, you will take their energy. And then you never subscribe back to them. I tell you, what I'm teaching, I could shut down the OnlyFans industry. But there's so much of ignorant people out there. You know what I mean? They do anything for silent when they start to empower men, you know. Because when it comes to the consumerism and thing, it's women. So you have to understand that. Okay. So I'm coming close to our end here. Okay. This show do. Our task is to get out of the square box. Yeah. Get out of the paradigm they have you in. Get out of the box. Okay. The cross, yeah, the cross, yeah, the cross represent, you know, you carrying a yoke, bandage, that chop energy, yeah. Our task is to escape the chop, the resurrection from the cross. This is the real cross, okay? The box, a square peg can't hold in a wrong hole. Exactly, okay? So, that's why they were able to give people so much yokes around their neck through mortgages and loans that they had to bow in 2020 to 2022. When the very book that they're reading, which is a book of mind science, the Bible, it says that the rich ruleth over the poor and the borrower is a slave to the lender. I'm teaching you how to get rich using your own energy. Nobody can take the sexual energy away from you. Okay? But the church has been controlling your sexuality for so many years. That is why, from a very young age, in your formative years, they make sure they indoctrinate you through the school system. Okay, my brother and my sister, I can go on and on and on and on and on and on. But it's almost 2 hours and I really want to come to a close here. And if there's anything in particular you would like me to speak on, okay, I will definitely try my best to mention it in other videos, because I have so many other topics I have to go into and so on to really help you, because some of these things might sound very new to you, but this kind of knowledge have always been around, but it was kept hidden, and only a few people had this kind of knowledge and was utilizing this kind of knowledge, and I've been utilizing this knowledge up to this day. Okay, that's why I see there've always been a certain ruling class. And then after the ruling class, there's another class, and there's another class, and there's the last class. But you can move from the last class to the first class. Okay, I'm speaking from experience. Okay, I start from nothing. Okay, I heard a man radiates a lot of aura each 7 days of semen retention week. That's when a woman is saying the period is supposed to retain. You understand? Is it true? Another lie to make it just too hype. They want to hype you and keep you in ignorance too, right? But as I said to you already, you've been given a window concerning how a woman's cycle works. So you just go along with that cycle. So you have a woman, because most of these men you normally see try to hype up retention, maybe some of them don't have a woman. But if you have a woman, you understand, you monitor that, and you understand that the woman working with the moon. Okay, and you use that to help you. So you and your woman have to work together. Okay, so you know when she's saying that and so on and all of that, you know that it's time for you to relax and so on. Okay, not for you to go watch porn, not for you to go masturbate and anything like that. You retain that, you hold that. It will help you to give you even a stronger release, a more powerful release too. When you do release, okay. Even let me tell you something I did already too. Sometimes you could do that for one time in a month. You can have you can have intercourse with your significant one, and that particular time you hold it and don't release it and save it for another time. And another time, I'm telling you, it'll be twice time even more powerful. Okay, and you send it out with a bigger intention. Okay, because for example, if you have a bigger intention because you're supposed to grow and expand all the time. Okay, you can do that. You can try that and do that. Okay, but don't go with the hype. Think out of the box across the square. Someone say, oh, if that is the Saturn worship, Saturn, Satan, you name it, just your lower self. That's all. Just your lower self. No entity outside of yourself. Okay? So my brother and my sisters, it's time for us as a people to break all of the brainwash and live life on our own terms. Break the control of the church of your life. Break the control of politics of your life and live life on your own terms. Okay? So thank you all very much for reaching out. It's really been a pleasure having this conversation with you, and I look forward for more of this. See you another time. Peace. Out.